Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. In today's video I will be using my stunning new Snowflake mould from IntoResin, and I will be using JDiction epoxy resin to make some gorgeous tree decorations and a wintry tea light holder. If that sounds interesting, stay tuned and enjoy the video. Okay then, so here's the mould I'm going to be using today. It's a large snowflake mould from IntoResin, and yeah, it's a handmade mould, and I know it's going to be beautiful, but by looking at the mould you can't really tell how beautiful it will be. So what I decided to do first was just make a very simple clear snowflake in there, nothing added, just clear resin, just to see what it would look like before I did anything fancy. So for all the snowflakes I will be making today, I'm using JDiction's high gloss epoxy resin. It's a 1:1 mixing ratio by volume. I've measured out part A and part B in separate cups. And what I like to do is label my cups with what resin it is and whether it's part A or B, and I keep those cups just for measuring out that particular resin. And then, you know, you're not wasting the cups if you're not mixing the resin in them, if you just use them for measuring, because those measuring cups are really good, but they're a bit more expensive than just your normal cheaper plastic cups. So yeah, I do like to keep those for as long as possible. That's why I've labelled them. And so after I've finished with them, I just cover them up, and then next time I can use them again. And anything that saves me from cleaning is always a bonus as well. No cleaning necessary if you do that. I mixed the resin for about 2 minutes and then poured it into the mould. I'm going to keep this very brief because I'm going to be doing 3 different stars in this video, and one of the last one actually is going to be a bit more complex, so I'm saving a bit of time by zipping through the first 2. After I'd finished pouring resin into the mould, I used my heat gun to eliminate any surface bubbles that were there, and I also tried to poke any bubbles that you get stubborn ones in detailed moulds like this. So I had a little micro brush there, and I was just looking to see if there were any stubborn bubbles sticking to the mould at the bottom. And then all I needed to do was wait until the next day to take it out of the mould. Right. Zipping forward to the next day, it's time to take it out and have a look. It's very easy to demould. All you need to do is bend the mould a little bit around the edges, all the way around, and then it pops out easily. So let's have a look to see how the star looks. Well, I say star, it's called a snowflake, isn't it? But it's kind of a star snowflake in my opinion. And look, the JDiction high gloss resin is just gorgeous. As you can see, it is very glossy and very clear as well. Whoops, just dropped it. So yeah, you can see all the detail from the mould. There's frosting on the end of those inner points, which you couldn't really see before. And so yeah, it was good to do a clear one just to start with, to get a good idea of how it would look. And I love it. Absolutely gorgeous. So right, this time I decided to make one with some colour. I'm using chocolate brown and bronze mica powders from Arteza. Not sure if they sell them anymore. I've had these a long time, but they're really nice. And these go nicely with the colour scheme I've already got for my Christmas tree, so that's why I chose those colours. I'm just adding a little bit of the chocolate brown first. I will pour that into the mould first, then add some bronze into the chocolate brown and pour that over the top to see what effect I will get. So let's fast forward a little bit now. Here you can see me adding the chocolate brown, then the little bit of bronze into the chocolate brown, and then simply just pouring it on the top. My hope with this was that the bronze would sink through the chocolate brown and I would get a little bit of a crackling effect. That's what I was hoping for. So we will see what happened, because as you know, it's going to go straight to demoulding right about now. Actually, just remembered I forgot to record when I was taking it out of the mould, so you've missed the demoulding, but here it is, and I did get a little bit of that crackle effect there. Do you see? I really like it. I think that's very subtle but really pretty, and with the colour in there you can see the frosting a little bit better on the ends of those, points of the star or the snowflake. So yeah, I really love that. I think it's very pretty. So we've made 2 stars. Now it's time to do something a little bit different. I wanted to see if I could make a spherical Tealight holder with my big spherical mould there, and then make a snowflake once that's ready and bend it over the shape of the mould, not the mould, the Tealight holder, if that makes sense, while it was still bendy. Because if you demould your star while it's still bendy, you can mould it to a different shape, and I wanted to try that. So that's what I'm doing this time. And I've mixed up my resin. I've used a little bit of blue and a little bit of interference white. And because this mould takes up so much resin, I'm also using crushed glass in there because I thought it might make it look kind of like icy if I got the texture from the crushed glass in there. So I'm pouring in most of my resin, which I've already mixed. It's the JDiction Deep Pour Resin. Just having a squeeze around the bottom there where the Tealight candle goes, because that's where you would maybe get air bubbles trapped. So I'm just making sure there's no pockets of air trapped there. Then pouring in the rest, and then I will add most of the crushed glass and see how we go. See if it will fill up the volume. And it's good to do that because you're not wasting loads and loads of resin. You can really save a lot by doing that. And I love this JDiction Deep Pour Resin. I've used a lot of different deep pour resins before, and they take a long time to cure, but not this one. This one was ready the next day, which was really good. So I was always quite amazed by that when I first started using it, but yeah, definitely works. So there we go. I've got the glass in there. It's not quite enough. And so I added some more. I added the rest of my resin, some more glass, until it reached the top. So normally if I was just pouring resin into this mould, even though it's a deep pour resin, I would do it in 2 pours. Because you've got to be careful, you've got to look at the maximum pouring depth with deep pour resins. I think this one is 10 centimetres, I think. But this mould is higher than 10 centimetres, and you need to be careful because it can overheat if you overfill. And if it overheats, you don't want that to happen. So do be careful. But this time I thought, I'll get away with it because it's not just resin in there. It's not solid resin, if you see what I mean. It's got all that glass in there too to separate it all a little bit. So I thought, let's just see what happens. And it was fine. It was absolutely fine filling it all the way to the top. So I was glad I tried it. Sometimes you've got to be brave, but yeah, do be careful. And I forgot to say that my crushed glass was actually free. I got it from a local safety glass manufacturer. I asked them if they had any and they saved it for me. So I just went to collect it and it was free. So that is a really good way, if you can do it, to really fill out the volume and use a lot less resin. I think I used half of what I would have needed if I'd just used resin. Right then, so here it is out of the mould, and as you can see, it is kind of like an icy effect. If I'd gone for more of a very pale blue or almost white colour, it might have looked more like ice, but still, it's got a very wintry look to it, hasn't it? I really like the crushed glass in there, and yeah, that was definitely a success. So I was pleased with that. Now, let's get on with the star that's going to go on the front of here. So I mixed up some more of the JDiction High Gloss epoxy resin, and I'm pouring just a little bit in, and while it's clear, before adding any pigment, just a little bit. And then I'm adding some gold pigment powder. I think it's like a goldish white colour from Arteza, and I can't remember what it was called, sorry. But yeah, it's whitey gold colour. and mixing that in and pouring it over the top. So we've got a two-tone one again, like we did with the brown one. But once I got it in there, I kind of thought, I just had a feeling it needed something else. So once I had the white on the top of the clear, I decided to add some glitter as well, because yeah, it's a snowflake, it needs some glitter, doesn't it? Really, I could have just done glitter in the epoxy and that would have looked nice. But anyway, that's what I did. I added some glitter as an afterthought. Right then, so with this one, I needed to let it cure, but only to the point where I could get it out the mould. I wanted it to be still very bendy. And yeah, I did get my timing a little bit wrong. I didn't quite give it enough time because it was such a cold day here. And yeah, I gave it all day until bedtime. And I thought, well, I've got to do it now because if I leave it till tomorrow, it won't be bendy. I need to do it now before I go to bed. And yeah, it wasn't quite there. It was still a bit soft. So yeah, I got it out of the mould, but yeah, I kind of lost some of the definition on the snowflake because it was too soft. But anyway, yeah, that's just my little explanation of where I went wrong with that. So anyway, it worked. So let's see what happened. Right, before I took the snowflake out of the mould, I wanted to wrap my Tealight holder in cling film because I'm going to be moulding the bendy snowflake onto the Tealight holder, but I didn't want it to stick. I just wanted it to get the shape from the Tealight holder without sticking. So that's why I'm just covering it now with cling film before I get the snowflake out, and then it's all ready to put the snowflake directly onto the Tealight holder. So that might not have made sense, but it will do in a minute. So as I said a couple of minutes ago, it was not quite there. You know, I should have given it a couple more hours at least before taking it out. But yeah, I needed to get to bed. Now, it's very fragile because it's still so soft. So I took quite a long time. I will fast forward through this, but I was very careful with it. I really took my time, turned it over. Once it started to come out, I turned it over and tried to peel the mould off the snowflake rather than pulling the snowflake out of the mould. And it, like I say, it took a while, but I got there in the end. So when it was finally out of the mould, I placed it onto the Tealight holder. Sorry for the bad lighting. Like I said, it was really late at night. I'm just looking at it now. It's quite fuzzy, isn't it? But anyway, you can see, I think. Anyway, yeah, I put it in position on the Tealight holder. And then once I had it just in the right position, I needed to move it around a little bit. I covered that layer with cling film as well to hold it in place. And then the next day it was, you know, all curved in the right shape and it was cured a lot more, so it wasn't bendy anymore. So let's zip forward to the next day and see how it looked. Right, and there we go. Nice and easily it comes off the cling film and it's stayed in shape nicely. Now, there's a lot of messy bits that need cleaning up on it before I can glue it to the Tealight holder. I couldn't do that while it was too, you know, all bendy and soft. It was just too difficult. I needed it to be a lot harder before I could get rid of the excess bits that were on there. So I'm just using my deburring tool just to get rid of the odd little bit that's sticking out. And then it's ready for the next step, which is gluing it into position. The glue I'm using is E6000 Plus. I only had a little bit left in the tube, so I had to give it a good squeeze. But once it was on there, I spread it around with a lollipop stick until it was completely covered. Don't ask me why I'm only wearing one glove. For some reason, I thought I would only need one glove on, but no. Really, I should have had two on. I don't know. Anyway. Once that was completely covered, it was ready to put into position. So at this stage, really, I should have slowed down and had a really good look at where I was going to place it, because I put it on and then realised that just nearby there was an imperfection in the Tealight holder that I could cover up. So I had to take it off and move it, and then I had loads of glue to clean up. So yeah, I did make a bit of a mess and ended up doing a lot of cleaning up afterwards. But in the end, I got it in position and left the glue to dry. So yeah, it was quite a process, wasn't it? But I wanted to see what it would look like. So let's find out how it looked. When I looked at it, my eye was drawn to the blue star in the middle, and that was all I could see, just a blue star. It was just too obvious for me. I just didn't like it at all. So I decided to add some UV resin in the middle. I'm actually using JDiction's high viscosity UV resin. You don't have to use a high viscosity one. Any UV resin will do, but I had that handy. And so I'm just putting some in there, and all I did once I'd poured in the resin and made sure it was all coated all over the star was I poured some glitter on top and then cured it under my UV lamp. It does need longer to cure because obviously the light struggled to get through all the glitter, so you do need to give it longer. But once I'd given it a few minutes, I shook off the excess glitter and then gave it a few more minutes, and then it was done. And I was so much happier with it after I'd covered the blue star in the middle. It looked more like a snowflake then, instead of just, my eyes being drawn to that blue star. I wasn't happy with it. But yeah, I'm happy with it now, and I think it looks very Christmassy. I'm happy with the results. So I'll put a candle in it and show you everything all sat together looking pretty. And there they are, looking all festive. I like these. I think they look really pretty. I think the mould is fabulous. I will put a link to the mould, which is from IntoResin, into my video description. But it wouldn't have looked so wonderful without wonderful resin. All the resins I've used today are from JDiction. I will put the discount code and the links in the video description if you fancy going over and having a look. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope I've managed to inspire you and make you feel a little bit Christmassy. And I will see you again next week. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.